Very good. Thank you for the introduction. I'm Dan Cunningham. I'm here with a team from Fiskars. We're going to be talking about new tools for personalizing gifts and just in time for the holidays. We've got a handful of newish tools that we're going to talk about, and this is a little different than the other two presentations that we gave, because we're going to actually be making things while we talk about the tools. So Amanda, my product manager cohort, is here. She's going to be doing most of the creating, but I hope to kind of do some of the creation myself here. My history is I'm an engineer with Fiskars, so I have a lot of pretty in-depth knowledge of the tools themselves. I kind of helped design a lot of these actually. And so I hope to be able to teach you a little bit about your tools and how they work. And then we'll give the demonstration of kind of what each of these tools can make for you. So at the end, we'll have time for some questions. But along the way, if you do have questions, you can hop in that chat and be able to communicate. I won't be able to see it, but my team members will be able to as well. And they should either be able to address it in the chat or ask me at the end. So without further ado, let's talk about new tools to make these personalized gifts. So the cups and the decorations that you see on the right are examples of vinyl stickers that are applied to pre-purchased or sometimes handmade products. And it's very common to gift these things because you can personalize them. There are tools out there that you can print these vinyl things. The problem often comes up that when you're going to apply it, how do you know that it's in exactly the right place, aligned both angularly and in the right position? Well, within the last year and a half, we've released alignment tools to do just that. So specifically for aligning vinyl stickers to both flat objects and cylindrical objects. We kind of have two of those things. We also say flat surfaces and curved surfaces. So as you can kind of see there in that initial picture, they represent a tool that would hold the vinyl sticker before you apply it, kind of hover over what you're going to do, and then be able to align it before you place it. So this would be that first opportunity. Let's flip over to Amanda to be able to present an overhead view of a project.
Hello, everybody. So today I will be showing you both a demonstration of the flat tool as well as one for the curved tool. We will start first with showing you kind of a representation of the flat tool on a notebook. I've gone ahead and already pre-cut some vinyl and applied the transfer tape to it. My recommendation usually is that if you're using a cutting mat, you would place this tool under the cutting mat just to give you a little extra stability. However, for the purposes of this demo, I'm just going to kind of do it a little bit more freehand, hopefully to give you a better representation. But the benefit of leveraging a cutting mat is that you can then use the grid marks as kind of a centering point for you. So for today, just to give you a little bit of insights as to how the tool works for the flat tool, we have these two, what we call arms, that can open up to help support the vinyl decal. And then there is this crossbar in the center that you can use to leverage as more of a T-square. So especially when you have very straight letters such as this decal, you can have a better understanding of, okay, am I actually making sure that this is straight? There is a little lip at the back of this tool where you can make sure that both a cutting mat and your project surface will make sure that it's flush against it, so you know that you're getting a perpendicular alignment between your project surface and the tool. So to start, you would first make sure that you have your decal prepped and ready. And I have done this one already, so we'll remove that from the paper lining. Then you'll be able to weave your decal between the arms and this center bar. And so here, the benefit of having that crossbar is making sure that I have a very straight line to make sure that I'm appropriately making sure that it's straight, especially for very linear projects such as this. Now that I have this, I've already raised the tool to the max height, but as you can see, there's quite a significant depth between your project height and the tool base. So if I slide my project underneath, I'll be able to move my project back and forth to make sure that from a centering standpoint, that I have it in the right spot. And this is really where a cutting mat comes in hand, because if you were to use these lines on the side, you would be able to make sure that the tool's in the center, for example. And again, I'm trying to do this a little sideways, so it's kind of awkward for me, but I want to give you guys the best perspective. So now that I have my decal lined up, I have it pressed onto these arms, and it's kind of hard to see, but there's little bumps on these arms that ensure that the decal is barely touching the tool. So you don't need to necessarily worry about the decal sticking to the tool or the adhesive on the back of the vinyl being removed from it. Now that I have my tool in the right spot and I have my project, I can lower the decal down to the base. And again, I still have enough room to kind of shift my notepad here to make sure that it's in the right spot that I want. And I'm going to just shift this to me to make sure that it looks aligned. And I can see that it's in the center. And now that it's all the way down, I can press on this middle finger, and I can, because the transfer tape is so sticky, I can move these fingers out of the way and I can move the tool, and the decal is already going to be in the correct spot. Now I can use, we have this curling and scoring tool to make sure that I get a crisp adhesive to here, and I can pull my transfer tape off, and you're left with a notebook. Now, the perfect thing about this when you're using a cutting mat is that you can make duplicates really easily, because in theory, I could just slide my notebook out from underneath and I could just slide a new one in and make multiples over and over again. So here's another one that I used in the same height, different words, but as you can see, you can get that replication. So that is our flat tool. Then we have the same for curved tools. So this is super exciting. A lot of people I know love making custom tumblers, mugs, etc. But it's always a challenge that when you're working with a concave surface that it's really hard to see what you're doing, make sure that your tool's not slipping away from you or your project slipping away from you as you're applying the vinyl. So here again, we have a very similar tool here where there is the arms that can move to accommodate larger width decals. You still have that crossbar in the center to help you make sure that your decal is straight. And then this arm moves up and down so you can get the appropriate height. The same goes for this tool. You can slide this back and forward. I just forgot to show you that. So then if we want to show a cup, so these arms will help you attach the tool to your mug, and they have these squishy little legs that ensure that if you're working on things like glass, that you won't be damaging your project either. So here I have already made sure that these front legs are at the front of the cup, because what you want to make sure is that when you do rotate this down to make sure that the tool is perpendicular, that you're just about touching the cup here. Now, to make sure that the tool is snug, you can pull back, you pinch these little legs or arms, and then the legs will become very secure to your project. So now that I have my tool, oops, need to get it a little bit tighter here. There we go. So now I can remove my decal, and sometimes, you know, you might have excess transfer tape, so non-stick scissors are a perfect tool to make sure that I can trim this down so I don't have too much excess tape in my way. And I can do the same process of weaving and leveraging the crossbar. I'm going to use the crossbar at the top of these letters. And since I have a cylindrical project here, I'm not so concerned about necessarily making sure that it's centered within the project, but I do want to make sure that it is straight onto this tool. So now I'll be able to move this arm down. And in order to get the right height, I suggest always moving the tool to the top, and then you can simply push down until you achieve your desired height and placement on your project. And you can always pull up. So to me, this looks like a really good height, and I can just simply press down on the center. I can move these little legs in and apply. Can use my scraping tool to make sure that it's snug on there, and then peel off, and you've got your cup. The great thing again is if you're trying to create duplicates, you can, now that your tool's already in the set height, and I knew that I used the top of the word of the letters joy, that I can place the next decal if it was identical in the same spot on the tool, grab my next cup and just place and go again, making it super easy to make a set for somebody for the holidays. Were there any questions as we went through on either of these alignment tools?
Nope, just excitement. I had no idea this existed until now.
Awesome. Well, I'm super excited about these tools. I'm super excited that we have them available in the market. It was a long time coming, so super excited to be able to make a lot of personalized gifts, especially when you have a bit of OCD tendency like me and you're very meticulous about how your finished project looks. This is an absolute lifesaver.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Well done. That's, I mean, you make it look very easy, which is great. I mean, that's the whole point.
It's definitely easy.
Right. So that's the alignment tools. Moving on, the next project type that we want to talk about is boxes. So gifting boxes, decorative boxes are really trendy, and they're really great for gifting handmade items. If you've handmade and spent all the time making the item, why do you go and buy a box for you to put it in and gift it? So baked goods, presents, those types of things are great for boxes. And additionally, envelopes. If you're making very crafty cards, craft the envelope as well. And we know sometimes that especially making consistent boxes might be kind of tricky. So we've created what's called the gifting board. And the gifting board, you can see it right here. It is a tool to allow you to create boxes, envelopes, and even bows in a consistent, repeatable manner pretty simply. Now, it does look fairly complicated, lots of numbers and measurements and things on it. So I am going to demonstrate that. By zooming in, really there's three big things you have to look at. And we highlight those things in orange for when you're interacting with them and gray when they're indicating something to you. So let me flip over to an overhead view myself and be able to do it. Now, this is actually a project especially close to my heart because I invented a fancy mechanism inside this and made it kind of what it is. So hopefully I don't mess up. But we have here that gifting board. It's not too large. It's kind of thick, but it includes a punch as well. And I'll show you how that all works. But let's say you have a box that you want to make that is, say it's 4 inches. Well, let's say it's 3 inches tall and 4 inches wide. So what I just did was I used these 2 levers to decide how big the box should be. So this down here, this one that was labeled 1, it says box width, and indicated right down here, it shows how long the bottom edge of this square box is going to be. So I pull it all the way down to this 4-inch box. Now for a 12 by 12 piece of paper, which is what's typically coming from craft paper, and this tool can create at most a 4-inch box size. But then over here, this actually, it's hard to see in the camera, but it says box height. And you can see it's indicating how tall that box will be. So it will go up to a 4x4 box height. I want to make it maybe a little bit shorter. Let's say it's a 4x3. The next thing I look at is this gray dial. So 1, 2, 3. This gray dial tells you exactly how big of a square piece of paper you're going to need to use in this tool to make a 4-inch wide box by a 3-inch tall box. So, and what's interesting is that little gray indicator moves when either one of these move. So that's that mechanism inside that you don't need to worry about, but it takes the math out of this. There are other products on the market that do similar things, but they always require you to refer to a chart and figure out how big of a piece of paper you need. And here that chart goes away and you just have to be indicated right here and say, all right, I want to make it that big. So I've set it for that 3-inch by 4-inch. This is telling me I need a 10 3/4 box or piece of paper. So now I just take out a trusty trimmer. In this case, this is one with a built-in ruler that I can just line it up so I don't have to make any markings beforehand. Make the cuts to get it to 10 3/4 inches. So just 2 cuts. Now I have a 10 3/4 inch box. Set this away. So without changing the settings, because we know we still want that 4x3, I'm going to take this correctly sized piece of paper and slide it diagonally into this. Now, there is a box width stop that you're going to slide it against. So you're going to slide it against the box width stop. You're going to slide it up against this back rail. And then you're going to use the integrated scoring tool to take 3 stripes. The first one's going to be across horizontally. The second one is going to be vertically down, and both of them start at this punch, which we'll get to in a second. And then the third one is this orange piece, and that's going to be a center line. You'll see where that comes in later. Finally, you're going to make a punch without moving it. Then you're going to actually repeat that process 3 more times. So rotating it 90 degrees, line it up to that box width and up against the back. You're going to take the scoring tool, score horizontally, score vertically, score across the diagonal, and then make a punch. You're going to do it again. Kind of repetitive, but it's a little zen actually once you get into it. You really just keep making a box, and then the third one, and then the punch, and then one more. And you don't have to press hard with this scoring tool, especially when you're using thicker paper. You actually don't really want to press too hard, otherwise you might risk tearing it. You only just need this here in order to influence where that fold line is going to be. So there is all the scoring and 4 of the punches. So now to complete this, you take it, flip it around, and do 4 more punches, again, lining up against the back and against the box width. And you end up making 8 total punches around these edges. And then finally, we have an additional punch. You can slide it up in here, up to the top edge of this, and you're going to round the corners, as well as add a locking feature within it. So let me continue around, do all 4 of those. Now all that's left is the folding. So let me slide this away. Now along these creases, just gently fold them in around the 4 largest long ones. And just folding them just to get them halfway across. And then the lid, you can fold these over as well, getting it ready to assemble. Each corner needs to get folded inward. So you take it, you press it inward. Oh, I'm out of camera. There you go. Press it inward. My mistake. Sorry about that. Press it inward. Once you've got all 4, it's going to look, you're starting to see how it's going to be a box. So you can take the 2 pieces, and remember that locking feature? All you do is slide them across each other, and it holds the 2 halves together. So then you grab the other 2 pieces, slide them together, grab the 2 locking features, and you're done. Whoop, the interlocking piece came off. I just need to reopen that. But so now we've made this box that is 4 inches by 4 inches in this dimension and 3 inches tall. And so that'll fit really nicely your gifts and your things that you want. And you've got your own paper that you picked out for it. You aligned it onto this tool, and you can make these over and over with this. And again, you can use up to a 4 inch by 4 inch box. You can make them down to 2 inches tall and 2 inches in diameter, or sorry, 2 inches in width. Those require a pretty small sheet of paper down at 4 and a little more than 4 1/4. But all of those things can happen within this size. So those handy boxes, easy to make. Once you are not intimidated by what you're looking at and you understand there's really those 3 things you look at: changing the width of the box, changing the height of the box, and then cutting your paper to the indicated size. Now, it wasn't just a box that you could make with this. This is a gifting board. So another thing I mentioned was envelopes. Envelopes don't have the auto calculator that we built into this, but they are just as easy to make. And so I will do that, but it does require a little reference card. So this reference card is a sliding bar that you can slide it to within the envelope guide. Let's say I want to make a 5x7 card. So I have a 5x7 card. I want an envelope. We've already assumed we need a little bit of gaps. You don't have to worry about that. So if you assign a 5x7 card, it tells you what paper size you need. In this case, this says 9.5 by 9.5. I know it's kind of hard for you to read in that. So I do the same process where I'm going to cut a full sheet of paper to this 9.5 by 9.5. Take care of that now. This is a nice trimmer. You want to know more about it? Part 1 of this series actually talked about this trimmer. There's my 9.5 by 9.5. And the last thing you need to know from this sheet of paper, it says ruler position 4. So what that means is you're going to take this piece of paper and you're going to line it up with the 4 on here. Once you have it lined up on this 4, you're going to do a horizontal score. Remember those? So just like before, you do a horizontal score and a punch. Now this time, when you flip it around, you're not going to line it up to the 4 because this is a 5x7 envelope. You don't need it to be a square envelope. If you were to line it up to the 4, it wouldn't work to make an envelope. But what you do is you line it up so that your previous score line ends up falling right on the vertical score line that's in here. So you can either do that by eye. There's some guides on the back side of this for you to do it. Or what I actually like to do is put your stylus, your scoring, right on the line. And then as you slide it back and forth, it actually falls down into that line underneath. And then you're ready. So you score a second one, do a second punch. Now this one does the same thing. You line it up to the previous score line, do it across, punch. And then the last one is just right to there, horizontal line across, punch. And that envelope is actually done at this point, other than adhering the outside. So as you fold the 4 pieces together, you can see this made an envelope that is just slightly larger than 5x7. A 5x7 card will just slide right down in there and it'll be a perfect fit. Dab a little adhesive there. Oh, if you really want to make it even fancier, there is a corner punch on the other side. So now we've used the main punch in the front, the lock punch for the boxes, and over on this side, there's a corner punch. So there's a very interesting 3-in-1 punch here, and that just rounds the corners off very cleanly. So this gifting board allows you to kind of do all the steps needed to make envelopes, gift boxes, as well as the last feature that it can do, shown down here at the bottom, is it can make bows. So bows, just use a very simple strip of 1-inch paper. It has this indicator down at the bottom, says, I want a bow that is 1 inch wide. So you have some options, 1 inch, 1.5 inch, but let's say I want a 1 inch wide by, it's indicating that it needs to be 10 inches long. So this just happened to be a strip I cut off of another thing. I'm going to go flip over here and cut off to the 10-inch marking so that it's the right length. So there's the 10-inch. And it indicates 2 things when making the bows: the ruler position 1 and ruler position 2. And those are just giving you the right positions to make your correct more of these punches here. The first ruler position is position 2, which you'll place here. Then you can flip it over and do a 2-inch punch. Do some more of these 2 inches in from the edge. And then the ruler position 2 is 5 inches, which turns out is exactly half. So we're basically adding a punch, a notched in edge at exactly half. We also even have these little dotted lines here to line up and give you a really clean looking bottom edge of a bow, all pretty flawlessly. Now at this point, you curl your bows over. You apply a little bit of adhesive at the bottom edge of these, which I don't have, but you can see it makes a cute little paper bow for you to add to your box with 2 minutes of work. So very neat. So these are all the steps that you're required to both make the envelopes, the boxes, and even the bows. So a little bit of cleanup afterward. You can just recycle the craft paper and you'd be all done. So I hope that really helped make it a little less daunting and intimidating of a tool. But are there any questions in regards to this gifting board before I move on to the next thing?
We have one question. What's the heaviest paper this works with?
No, it's a great question. So your typical this premium cardstock, this is what I'm using. I actually don't know the poundage, but this is from Kit, big paper sets that come with lots of 12 by 12 papers. That's what it is especially designed for. But I know that this punch is able to do slightly heavier things. I wouldn't go crazy. I wouldn't try and do anything that is corrugated or extra thick. What you can think about is if you have any Fiskars punches at this point, right now, currently, this punch here is essentially the same technology. So if you can punch it with a regular Fiskars punch, this can do it too.
Which would be like 80-pound cardstock.
Is that these are 80-pound?
We spec our punches to either 65 or 80 pounds.
Okay, so there you go. Should have asked you that first.
Awesome.
All right. Any other questions? Otherwise, we can do the next project.
Somebody wanted to see your finished box that you had on the side.
Sure. Let's see. Let me zoom. Let me get up close here. So I have a couple boxes that I made prior to just show some range of sizes. So this is the type of box that it makes. This is the one I just made, where the corners are crisp. The top is that paper lock that I showed you, and when you open it, you can kind of see each of those corners just fold right in. Now, when I'm holding it way up here, it's hard to do that paper lock, but you can kind of see how that would go. These were all made with that same cardstock. So you can see that it's a pretty consistent time. You do, like I mentioned, you have to make sure not to push too hard on the scoring thing, because you can actually rip through it. So the first one you try, you might have a problem, but after that, you get an easy feel of it, that you don't push so hard. If you're using heavier weight paper, then sometimes you do need to press a little bit harder to get the proper score, but it doesn't take much of a score line in order to get that fold correctly. Hope that
Do you
helps.
have any finished bows as well over there?
I did not glue any bows. So the only bow that I had was the one I just made, and then one I made a little bit ago, which was just a little bit of a shorter bow, a smaller bow. But I did not glue any of them to anything. Sorry. Let me see if the picture, I think we actually have. Yes. Oh, it's cut off. Oh, there's kind of a bow here. You can kind of see it's a cute little folded paper bow that you can even wrap something over the center to give you an even cleaner look across the front. Okay, so the next project we're going to talk about are paper gems. Now, paper gems are actually fairly similar to the boxes in that you take a piece of craft paper, you do some tracing and some folding, and you get this beautiful decorative element. The fancier the paper you use, the fancier the decoration, the more impactful sometimes these gems can be. It doesn't take a lot of effort, but what you can purchase from Michaels is these templates. So these templates are something that you can buy to make different shapes of these gems. At Michaels, you can buy what we call the quartz and the jewel, as well as you can buy even a scoring tool that has the same features as the one that comes in the gifting board, but it's separate. It includes a scoring ball at the front that's sized specifically for our templates. And you know what? In fact, let me switch over to Amanda and have her kind of show off these tools.
Awesome. So as Dan had mentioned, at Michaels, you can find 2 templates. So this is the jewel template, and then this is the quartz template. And then this is what an example of what the quartz could look like. These are, as Dan mentioned, super easy to use. They're cool tools. You can either use them for decorative elements if you want to, make ornaments, or maybe a table centerpiece, or you can use them to use as an alternate to a gift box if you want. And kind of based on how permanent you want them to be would be where I would recommend changing the adhesive you're going to use. So to get started, you only need a few tools. You're going to need some paper, the template with the scoring stylus. You'll need a pair of scissors and a pencil. So as well as either I'm using a tape runner today, or you can use a hot glue gun if you want to make sure that it's permanent. Today I'm going to kind of use the tape runner to make me think maybe I'm going to use it as a gift box and put maybe candy in it, and things like that. So I will be showing you how to make a quartz one today. So super simple. You can either use 8.5 by 11 or 12 by 12 sheet of paper. As you can see, this template fits very perfectly onto the 8.5 by 11. And again, here cardstock size really doesn't matter. I think go beyond probably 80 pounds, just based on having to fold and the scoring. But all you're going to do is hold your template down and trace around it. This is a super good activity to do with kids as well, since it doesn't require that many tools. Templates are very user-friendly as well.
It's hard to tell, but the template is not just a simple piece of paper. It's a hard, almost 1/8 inch thick piece of plastic that is very stiff and rigid. And so you can't kind of slide up on it with like other templates you might be able to while you're tracing.
Yes, it's kind of hard to see here, but it's pretty thick. It's very durable. So after you've traced around it, you will make sure that you keep your template in the same spot, and then you're just going to go through all of these little scoring tracks. So I like to go through them about once to twice just to make sure that I have them well scored. So here, it's kind of a very therapeutic process as well, because it's kind of one of those just mindless tasks that are really fun to do. We've used these different templates, ornaments, centerpieces. The tablescapes are really cool. And I'll talk when we're assembling them at the end, how we can kind of make sure that we vary whether you're putting them to fully assemble, how to, attach maybe string or a stick through it. So now that I have gone through it and I've scored all of them, I can move my template to the side. And then you'll just need to, as you can maybe you can see, it's sometimes if this light catches it right, the scoring lines are easy to see in person. So here, as I'm cutting it out, I will say that, you know, if you're like me, when you're crafting, you want to make sure that you're getting the most out of your materials. So here, I'm going to be saving these scraps and putting them to the side, and I'll give you ideas on maybe how you can use this leftover paper afterwards with our next tool.
I'm going to quickly interject and call out the second of these tool schools that we gave, the one just last week, was all about paper cutting knives. And this is an opportunity that if you have a cutting mat that template was set on, you can use a craft knife to carve around these, whether it is one of the regular straight craft knives, one of the ergo craft knives that we make, or even the one that can kind of pivot and spin. Those would all work pretty well to cut these designs out.
Yes, absolutely. I've definitely used that with the metal ruler as well to make sure that I'm getting that crisp edge. Pretty much is up to your comfort level on which tool you want to use. We would not recommend that you use the knife onto the template just because the template is made of plastic and just overall safety. After you've traced it out, you are more than welcome, if you are comfortable using a craft knife, to use one then. So now after you've got your shape cut out, all you have to do is on those scored lines, fold them over. So there's going to be a series of folds. So you're going to first have little tabs, and that is what we're going to use to apply the adhesive. And I recommend that based on which side you drew the pencil marks on, that you're folding into that, just so you don't have any pencil marks on the outside of your project. I like to kind of go row by row. So I do the tabs and then kind of the outside edges. And then from here, you can fold the center line. And as you can see, it's really easy to do. I usually, once I get halfway through, I flip it around. It's just a lot easier to manipulate the paper that way. But now that I have this today, as I mentioned, I will be using a tape runner. And all you need to do is any of these tabs that you see. So this one has 9. You've got the 4 on each of these peaks, and then you've got this one side one. And we'll go ahead and tape this. And now the assembly process begins. So as dependent on how you want to use it, today I'm going to just assume that I want to, oh, taper not going to work. Today I am going to fully enclose it, but we'll talk about how maybe if you wanted to use it as an ornament, kind of what's the best way to do that. So now that I've got all my edges, so I usually start with one top. And you just kind of pinch, and you can go tab by tab. And this is where a glue gun, if you're can work really well too, makes it very easy. And then so I've got one peak done. I'm going to actually flip over. I'm not going to worry about this peak. I'm going to first do this inside tab and make sure that that is pressed together. And I usually like to peel one of the little peaks backwards just so I can get my hand in there, make sure I get a really good tight seal. And then you can go around to all the other peaks. And then you've got your last one. So here is, once you come to this kind of final peak, this is when, if you wanted to maybe put it on like a wooden dowel, I would recommend that's when you start cutting out, and then you can stick it in, and so you can have it standing upright. You can also use either, you can just kind of like knot one end of thread and use that as string. But it's easier to do that before you fully assembled it. So on this last one, then we're just gonna get my finger in. It's easy to, since this paper is like about 65-pound cardstock, it's easy for me to just get my fingers in there. And then it's easier when I'm not trying to show the camera. But now I've got 2 quartz in different colors. Perfect. You can kind of change how you know, the aesthetics based on the paper. It's really fun to use different print papers as well. And it's just a really cool way to kind of jazz up if you want to do gifting or how to decorate for any of the holidays or celebrations that you might be having. So that is our paper gems. Were there any questions that came through on paper gems?
There was. There was a question on the scissors. One of the people asked the scissors, cutting paper, dulls, scissors. Is there a recommended scissor to do this action with? I'm going to refer back. Actually, 2 weeks ago, we had a tool school on scissors and trimmers for paper crafting. And we detailed a lot of the things, the good types of scissors that you could use for paper crafting. In general, really high level, Fiskars makes 2 different kinds of scissors. One that is intended mainly for fabrics. We call that the razor edge. And then one that's more general purpose. That's our traditional blade grind. Now, razor edge, you're right. It will dull a little bit faster when you're cutting paper. And then if you take it back to fabric, you might notice a bit of a difference. Typically, we've engineered the razor edge that it can take some amount of paper cutting and still be just fine. But if you do like to separate those, you can get tools that are intended typically for the paper rather than those that are the razor edge. So I hope that helps. Were there other questions? I wasn't watching the rest of the chat.
Looks like no.
Okay, great. Then in that case, we can move on to kind of the third and final project and the tools that are associated with those things. Okay, so now we've created something amazing. We've made a box for it, whether it was a square box or even a jewel box. We want to decorate for a party, for instance. Let's talk about some sets that Fiskars has made that are, we call them the party planning sets. There are 2 at Michael's. The first is a confetti making set, and the second is a gift wrapping set. And these are sets that are built with Fiskars tools to let you be able to create those exciting things. You can see from those images that we package them in cool recycled boxes that have a QR code built right into it that says get inspired. So if you scan that with your phone, you're able to go onto our website and see some very neat things that you can do with this kit. Inside the kit, it's shown in the back. It's kind of shown on the slide as well. They come with a number of tools. So the confetti making set includes 4 different Fiskars punches that have very small features that you can take and cut scrap paper with and make a whole pile of confetti for you to decorate tables with. We also then have the gift wrapping set, which includes 3 tools, one being a gift wrap cutter. That's that figure 8 shaped tool. It's got a blade in the thing, or blade at the end that you could then slide across gift wrap to cut through. A hole punch and a square corner cutter, which is intended to make tags. So those are some exciting kits that let me flip over. I believe Amanda is going to show off a little bit of that.
So as I mentioned, we had our paper gem scrap paper, and that's where the confetti making kit actually comes perfect in hand. So we have 4 different shapes. There is one that has stars. We've got hearts, circles, and then kind of your standard rectangular confetti. The great thing about these lever punches, they do work up to 80-pound cardstock, and they feature confetti catchers. So as you kind of punch multiple times, this little tab will help house all of the little confetti that you make. So here, kind of a trick that a lot of people use is to make sure you know where you're punching. You can flip this one upside down, and you can just go around. Maybe you want a couple of different shapes. I'm going to use the circle as well. And since it's confetti, it never has to be perfect, right? So here now I can dump out, I've got my circles and I've got my rectangles, And now I'm ready to either make a confetti popper, add all of these to kind of a tablescape as a little added element. And each of them has a variety of sizes, as you can see. So you're getting a little bit extra out of those scrap paper that you have. And again, super fun activity to do with kids as well. So I will hand it back over to Dan.
Well, before you do you have the box for the confetti maker? And if you show the side of the box,
yes.
There's some great examples of color mixes that you can use to create themes to your confetti mixes.
Here you can kind of see this is, we've got fool's gold as an example. That's kind of a perfect color combination for maybe an over the hill birthday. Or you've got cotton candy under the sea. So as you mix a variety of colors, there's kind of endless possibilities here. And again, as the packaging kind of shows, here's kind of the out sizes. And these are you've got the actual output size there too. So super awesome, very giftable item, endless possibilities for any of your celebrations.
Thank you. So I have kind of one final note on these things. So the gift wrapping set that we didn't demo, I mentioned includes a square corner cutting punch. This is allowing you to create tags for your gifts. But in addition, we actually also sell the 3-in-1 tag maker as well. And this is a punch that is designed to make your tags. It's got the corners, but it also has an eyelet press within it. So you can make a specific size tag and then throw an eyelet on there as well. And you're able to kind of get all of that done all at the same time. So all of these tools and products that we've talked about are available at Michael's. And this is the shot that you would see when you walk into the paper crafting area of Michael's, a whole swath of orange, because that's Fiskars colors. But right down here, this is the area that you'll find all of those tools that we talked about. You can kind of see up in the upper part are those recycled cardboard boxes that include the kits, your paper gems straight that way, and your box of, your gift maker creator right straight across from there. If you want to know kind of about all the rest of the things in this Michael's display, this was the third of 3 tool schools, and each of the tool schools talked about different sections of this bay. So our first one talked about, like I mentioned, a bunch of scissors and our paper trimmers. So along the right-hand side of those things, there's a lot of scissors and paper trimmers. You can watch that either on the YouTube Michael's page or on the Michael's website. Includes those old recordings, and they'll detail all of those things that you see over there and what's the difference when you use one thing over another. Part 2 included the knives. So up in the upper part, there was a lot of craft knives. And what are the differences between fingertip craft knives, swivel craft knives, a lot of different types that maybe you've never seen certain ones or known why you might want to use one over the other. So watch part 2. And then I hope you enjoyed the part 3 of this. I definitely enjoyed presenting and helping out to inform you from an engineering standpoint in a lot of cases. But that does conclude this. So we have a little bit more time that we can answer some questions if you have any more.
Any questions, Kelsey? No, doesn't look
Great.
like we have any.
Well, appreciate everyone's time, and thank you, team, for helping and taking, well, and Amanda, in a lot of cases, taking the spotlight for these. The things you made looked really great. So appreciate it a lot. So thanks everyone for your time.
Thank you, everybody.